Hey everyone and welcome. Today we're diving into an explainer on the fascinating Netflix documentary Minimalism. We live in this world that's just constantly yelling at us that we need more. More money, the newest gadgets, a bigger house. But what actually happens when getting everything you're supposed to want just leaves you feeling, well, completely empty? Let's unpack this modern crisis of constant consumption together and look at the documentary's really compelling case for living a deliberate life with less.
Right out of the gate, we have to ask, why on earth do we have the highest standard of living in human history, but we're still constantly longing for more? Well, the documentary points out that we are essentially fighting millions of years of our own evolution. Think about it. Our ancient ancestors survived some incredibly harsh conditions thanks to a biological, almost delusional craving to hoard resources. That auto-craving kept early humans alive. But today, in our modern world of absolute abundance, that exact same hardwiring basically turns us into puppets. We scratch and claw for that next purchase because, biologically speaking, we are literally addicted to dissatisfaction.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, 1. The consumerism fog. Then, 2. The illusion of success. Next up, 3. Enter the minimalists. Followed by 4. Less stuff, more meaning. And finally, 5. Love people, use things. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The consumerism fog, the trap of accumulation.
The documentary makes the case that modern life is largely lived in this haze of automatic behavior. It's driven by a century of advertising that's literally designed to make us feel perpetually inadequate. And to put this into perspective, consider this really fascinating threshold, $70,000. The data shows that below $70,000 a year, getting more money genuinely does link to greater psychological well-being. Obviously, right? Getting your basic needs met, like housing, food, and security, that is absolutely crucial. But once you push past that rough $70,000 mark, additional money fundamentally ceases to buy happiness. You can pile up more cash, sure, but you aren't actually going to be any happier.
And yet we just keep buying. Which brings us to this absolutely staggering number, 2.2 billion. That is the total square footage of the personal storage industry in America alone. The documentary highlights this bizarre paradox, where we have about 3 times the living space per person today than we did back in the 1950s. We have these massive homes, but we've accumulated so much excess stuff that we actually need an extra 2.2 billion square feet of off-site storage just to cram it all in. We've ended up living our lives depending on the space we have rather than actually creating space to fit the lives we want.
So how exactly are we filling all that space? Well, the fast fashion industry gives us a pretty massive clue with the number 52. Historically, the fashion industry had, maybe 2 to 4 seasons a year. You dressed for the warm weather, you dressed for the cold weather. Simple. Today, though, fast fashion operates on this insane cycle of 52 micro-seasons per year. The entire system is explicitly designed to make you feel out of trend within a single week, just so you'll go back and buy something brand new the very next week. It's this ecological and financial treadmill that is just profoundly unsustainable.
Now, neuroscientist Sam Harris observes a really fascinating paradox here. He says we are actually not materialistic enough in the true sense of the word. We don't really care about the actual materiality of our goods anymore, like how they're made, how durable they are, their actual usefulness. Instead, we care entirely about their symbolic meaning. We're addicted to what advertising tells us these objects say about our status. The second a shiny new version of a gadget drops, the perfectly functional old one instantly becomes a source of dissatisfaction.
Moving on to Section 2. The illusion of success, when milestones fail.
When we spend our lives chasing these symbolic status items, what happens when we actually cross the finish line? We usually follow this widely accepted American dream template, right? Keeping up with the Joneses, grinding through 12-hour corporate shifts, and viewing success purely through the lens of a massive salary and a sprawling house. But the documentary argues that this isn't the template. It's just a template. There is an alternative, one that prioritizes financial freedom, which doesn't mean a huge net worth, but having the absolute freedom to spend your time how you want, focusing on sustainability, and living with deliberate, focused intentionality.
To really illustrate how that traditional template can completely fail us, we hear the stories of the documentary's 2 main subjects, Ryan and Josh. Ryan had achieved everything he was supposed to want, a ridiculous 6-figure salary, the corner office, the whole shebang. But when he got this massive promotion making him a junior partner, he walked into his office, shut the door, and just broke down crying. He realized he was totally trapped by the money and wasn't living his own life at all. Meanwhile, in the span of a single month, Josh was dealing with the absolute tragedy of his mother passing away and the end of his marriage. And what was he doing? He found himself frantically wandering the aisles of IKEA, desperately trying to figure out which espresso maker or matching leather chair defined him as a man. The material markers of success offered them absolutely zero shelter from their internal struggles.
It's exactly like actor Jim Carrey famously said, "I wish everyone could become rich and famous so they could realize it's not the answer." That really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It highlights this profound truth that it often takes the people who have reached the absolute pinnacle of societal and material success to confirm that the prize at the end of the whole consumption maze is, in fact, totally empty.
Section 3. Enter the minimalists. A simple living recipe.
So if the traditional template is broken, what's the fix? Well, true minimalism isn't about living in some barren cave with absolutely nothing. It's a simple living message about living more deliberately with less. It's this highly personal metric where you evaluate your surroundings and make sure that every single possession you own either serves a specific purpose or brings you genuine joy. Listen, if you get massive joy from a giant library of books, keep the books. Minimalism is really just a recipe, a tool to help you clear away the unessential junk so you can actually focus on what matters most to you.
To show just how flexible this recipe really is, the documentary dives into some radical, fascinating examples. You've got Colin Wright, a world traveler who counted every single physical possession he owns and travels the globe with exactly 51 things. 51! Then there's the Life Edited project, which designed this highly functional, transforming apartment in New York City that's just 420 square feet but can still comfortably host a sit-down dinner party for 12 people. And of course, the tiny house movement, which literally forces people to sustainably reduce their possessions by up to 90%. These are extreme examples for sure, but they show how drastically different people can apply the concept of intentional space to their own unique lives.
Section 4. Less stuff, more meaning, practical applications. So how do we actually apply these ideas to our day-to-day physical lives? Enter Project 333, a challenge created by Courtney Carver to tackle fast fashion fatigue head-on. The rules are incredibly straightforward. Step 1, choose exactly 33 items, and yes, that includes your clothing, jewelry, accessories, and shoes. Step 2, pack absolutely everything else away, completely out of sight. Step 3, wear only those 33 items for 3 solid months. Carver found that she spent way less time stressing out in the morning, her closet was filled only with her absolute favorite pieces, and crazily enough, working in a high-pressure advertising job, no one even noticed she was wearing a reduced wardrobe for an entire year.
But the impact went way beyond just saving a few minutes getting dressed in the morning. Courtney Carver had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and the documentary highlights a really profound biological link here. Chronic stress is a massive exacerbating factor in autoimmune diseases like MS. Carver reported that eliminating the constant, low-grade stress of physical clutter and stepping back from a hyper-busy lifestyle directly coincided with a total stop to her MS relapses. Literally, getting rid of physical clutter lowered her chronic stress and massively improved her overall biological health.
Now, this need for intentionality extends way beyond physical stuff. We are also drowning in the digital matrix. Did you know the average person checks their phone 150 times a day? We are basically living in this state of constant high-frequency flinches, almost like lab rats, just mashing a button for our next dopamine hit from a social media like or an email notification. News anchor Dan Harris found that this hyper-connected, workaholic lifestyle, combined with self-medication, pushed his brain's adrenaline so high that he suffered a full-blown panic attack on live television in front of 5 million people. His antidote to all that digital overwhelm: unplugging and using mindfulness medication to anchor himself in the present moment, a practice he famously credits with making him, as he puts it, 10% happier.
Section 5. Love people, use things. Finding true value.
This brings us to a pretty stark historical warning from President Jimmy Carter. He warned that in a nation proud of its community and hard work, too many of us tend to worship self-indulgence and consumption. He stated it super clearly. Owning things and consuming things does not satisfy our longing for meaning. Our human identity should never ever be defined merely by what we own. When we step away from this cycle of compulsory consumption, it clears a space for us and for the next generation to become who we actually want to be, rather than what advertisers tell us we should be.
And that ultimately leads us to the core thesis of the entire documentary, which is this: love people and use things, because the opposite never works. Minimalism isn't really just about throwing away your stuff. It's a tool. It gets the excess out of the way so you can focus on your health, your passions, and most importantly, your relationships. So I want to leave you with this thought to carry with you today. As you look around at your own life and the things you own, are you using your things to love people, or are you loving your things and using people to get them? Think about it.
Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.